My name's Eric. I'm a digital nomad living in my Subaru Forester as I travel around the country. And last night I slept on the side of the road by this highway because that's the reality of when you live in your car and travel full time. Look at all that ice. I cannot cook my dinner now. This is what my car currently looks like. It's covered in snow. When you travel full time, you're gonna be sleeping in parking lots. You're gonna be brushing your teeth in parking lots. You're probably gonna be making your breakfast, lunch, and dinner in parking lots. You can see I slept on the side of the road last night. That's a pretty common thing for me. I am not always in places with cell phone service. I am not always in places with good Wi-Fi. I had to move spots, and this is like 10:30 at night. And by the morning, it's like 22, 25 degrees. It's pretty cold. My fingers are numb from washing the dishes. We're always looking for the next shower. Bring in my cups and wash them in the sink here. Some real expectations of what it's like every single day out here. Hello, my name is Eric. I am 48 years old, and I live full-time in this 2020 Subaru Forester. I live full-time in this car because for an entire year, I traveled around the United States in this car, going from Florida to California to Washington and to Maine and then back to Florida. And I actually pulled a little teardrop trailer that entire time while I went around the entire country. But about 3 months into that venture, I decided that 1 year was just not long enough. And so after 1 year of traveling, I went back to Florida, I sold the rest of my things, and I went full-time in my car. And now I want to be traveling in this for the next couple of years. I also don't have a van or an RV or anything because honestly, I can't afford those things. This car is in great condition, it's paid off, and it has tons of great technology, and it's still under warranty. If I was to trade this in, I'm most likely going to have to settle on a used van or RV or something that probably will have a lot of mechanical issues, and I would end up getting a lot of technology things that this car has. And so that is why I live in my car. So the reason I want to make this video is because if you go online to Instagram or probably YouTube or anywhere else, it's made to look like when you travel full time, you're going to see nothing but beautiful places every single day, and you're going to stay in national parks every single night. And that is simply just not the case. There's tons of days that my days look like any other regular day. I have errand days just like you, and I have to go to the grocery store, and I have to do laundry, and I have to go work at places. But the difference between your schedule and my schedule is that I'm always in a new place, so I really never know what I'm getting myself into. Sometimes I drive all the way across town to go to a place that says it has Wi-Fi online, only to find out that it's actually closed. A lot of times I also get to a place that says it has Wi-Fi, and it does, but the Wi-Fi is so slow that it takes me literally 3, 4, 5 times longer than what it should take me had I been on really good internet. So while one of the pros of this lifestyle is you always are in new places and get to see new things, one of the cons is you're always in new places, so you always have to deal with new things. So I put in directions for the local library here, and I just couldn't find it. And so I finally asked a local, I said, hey, where's the library? Is it somewhere around here? He says, no, it was damaged during the last hurricane. They tore it down. They're rebuilding another one. The joys of visiting a new place every day. Now, one of the things that may or may not seem very obvious to most people when they travel full time is that weather can play a big contributing factor to how you do things. It can take so much longer for me to do the simplest things because of the weather. If it's raining or snowing, I cannot cook outside. And if it's even just a little bit windy like it is today, then it makes cooking also very difficult because it makes the flame on my 2-burner stove here dance around so much that it takes so much longer for everything to heat up. Here's the biggest challenge when it snows or rains or anything like that. I cannot cook my dinner now because I have to cook out of the back of my car, and well, this is what my car currently looks like. It's covered in snow. I have to go to a restaurant, which definitely adds up when you start going to a restaurant like every single night. Living in your car, you know, dealing with the elements, the car is something different. I have to cook outside. If I had an RV or if I had a van or something I could cook inside, it wouldn't be that much of a big deal. You know, it's just one of those things. And that's the biggest thing you have to know about when you get into full-time travel, is that everything takes so much longer. It takes me roughly an hour to do any meal whatsoever, because not only do I have to set everything up every single time, I have to set up my stove, I have to set up my pots and pans, I also have to clean everything immediately afterwards. I have no place to put dirty dishes and just do them later. I have to do them all in that moment. And so it just takes so much longer. I have to move things from the back of the car to outside. I have to set up a table. I have to get my water out. Everything just takes a lot longer. It also takes a lot longer to go to a place. So a lot of times I end up going to public bathrooms, not only to use the bathroom,
But also I go into public bathrooms to, say, change clothes, because it's a lot easier to change in a place where I can stand up versus just having to lay down on my back in my car. I go into public bathrooms a lot to brush my teeth, wash my face, put my contacts in, things like that. So I have to go find a public bathroom, one that I want to go into. A lot of public bathrooms are pretty disgusting. So you don't want to brush your teeth in a pretty dirty bathroom at a gas station or anything. So I end up driving sometimes a little bit of a distance to go to, say, a hotel lobby bathroom or something, because I know it's going to be a little bit cleaner. So another thing I do in public bathrooms like this, when I have a sink I can use, is I will bring in my cups and wash them in the sink here, because they have nice hot water and I have nice cold water. Plus, any water I use, I have to replenish. It's just kind of a big thing. So it's much easier to take little cups like this and wash them in the sinks here. So just know that everything you do in the travel lifestyle is just going to take a lot longer. And as I just mentioned, you're not going to be in national parks every single night like it's depicted online. I have slept in so many parking lots on the side of the road, way more than I ever thought I would do when I got into this lifestyle. I slept behind empty buildings, I slept in gym parking lots, I slept at Walmarts, I slept at rest stops, and all of them have been absolutely fine. I've never had an issue with anything, but they're not always the quietest night. I've slept at Walmarts that are open 24/7, and you have people go through there with their stereos blasting at 2 a.m. for whatever reason. I've slept on the side of the highway before with traffic going by all night, like semis and things that you can hear. So just know that you're not always in these amazing spots every single night. Now, I'm a digital nomad. That means I work remotely, and I need to have internet access to work. Most times I find libraries. Libraries are in almost any single town, and they almost always have Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi can be hit or miss. And I do freelance video editing for a living, and that means I have to send 4K videos to my clients, and I have to receive 4K videos from my clients. So I do a lot of uploading and downloading. And like I said, sometimes internet's not always the greatest. Sometimes you go to a place and you think you're gonna be there for just 2 or 3 hours, and you end up being there 7 or 8 hours because the internet is that slow. I've worked at coffee shops, I've worked at McDonald's, I've worked inside of hotel lobbies before, any place that I can get internet. And here's a little tip. McDonald's Wi-Fi is actually some of the fastest I've ever experienced, and you can just go over there and sit in the corner and no one's gonna really pay much attention to you. So like I mentioned earlier, you just never literally know an area. You never know how safe an area is. I'm always worried about leaving my car unattended. I mean, my entire life is in my car. I have electronics and things in here that if something was to happen to them, I can't replace. I don't have the money for that. So you always have to go with your gut instinct. I never stay in a place where I just don't feel comfortable. And that goes for sleeping, and that goes for finding a place to work, or that goes for finding a shower, or anything else. I am a digital nomad, meaning I work on the road, I work remotely, and there's 2 places in town that have Wi-Fi. There's a library up the street, and there's a McDonald's across the street. Unfortunately, the library is where I prefer to be, but the internet there is really, really, really slow. It was taking 14 minutes to download a 30-second clip. Can't do that. I've been working at the McDonald's across the street, so you gotta go where you gotta go sometimes. Now, a car is not a very big place. Everything in here is in their spot for a very specific reason. It works best for my routine, but that also means I have to consider when I buy new things, where am I gonna put them? So a lot of times when I go to the grocery store and I'm just trying to buy something to replace something I'm almost out of, say trail mix or something, then what I usually do is I take the trail mix from the old bag and dump whatever's remaining out of that into the new bag, so that way I can save space in my car, because having 2 bags of trail mix, even one is almost empty and the one's full, well, I just don't have the room for that kind of stuff. When I buy things like Clif bars or power bars or these Lara bars, then this package right here is pretty big and bulky. So as I eat through these, I'm still left this big bulky package. So instead, I take all of them out of here, I throw this away in the parking lot in a trash can somewhere, and now I just have these loose. But once I go through this, that's it. They just kind of deplenish away, and I'm left with empty space in my car. Same thing with any meats I buy. If I buy chicken or steak or anything that comes in one of these kind of packages here, this takes up a lot of space in my car. So instead, I take all the meats out of this, I put it all into a Ziploc bag like this, and that does 2 things. One is I'm able to put marinade in there, so now it's marinating for when I go to eat it. It's gonna taste a lot better than just out of that. This is much more malleable. I can squeeze this down and it takes up a lot less space in my fridge. This right here takes up a ton of space, and if there's 3 or 4 pieces of chicken in here, and I only eat half of them one night, and I'm left with the other half,
Well, I still have all this space here just taking up more room in my fridge. This right here is my trash bag full of all the trash I just got rid of in the parking lot. I'm gonna throw it away up at the front of the building. So again, every inch counts in your car.
Daily routines are also something that are pretty much non-existent in this lifestyle because I'm always in new places all the time and I'm always dealing with things like the weather, just simple things like your morning routine, the way you prefer to make your coffee or when you like to eat or anything. Sometimes has to all go out the window based on where you're at and what the weather is doing, and maybe sometimes it's also dependent on just when I need to get to a place to work because maybe that place closes at a certain time of the day. Weekends, a lot of times, places like libraries and stuff close a lot earlier, so I may have to get to those places a lot earlier than I normally would so I can get my work done for my client. Speaking of daily routine, exercise is one of those things that I don't get to do a lot of anymore. So I belong to a Planet Fitness, mostly for their showers. That's pretty common for people who travel full time. For $25 a month, you can go to any Planet Fitness in the country, I think actually in the world, and get a shower there. But I haven't come across a Planet Fitness in about 3 weeks now. So not only have I had to try to find other showers on the road, but I'm also trying to find other places that I can just get a little bit exercise in. And that means sometimes just going for a walk or something like that, because I'm constantly in this car sitting here all the time. A lot of times at night when it gets cold, I just sit here and watch movies on my phone, and honestly it just gets really boring. And speaking of the boredom, now I'm a solo traveler. Everybody does it a little differently. Some people travel with a spouse or family or whatever, but being a solo traveler, I often have to deal with a lot of boredom, especially as the weather changes and it's now getting dark around 5:30 in the evening. And so after it's dark and it's gotten cold, I don't really want to sit outside my car. It's not a lot of fun. I'm often in places where I can't build a fire or anything. So I end up just watching movies on my phone, and that can get very boring. All right, so by 5 o'clock, it's starting to get dark, and by 5:30, it is pitch black. And I don't really like to make dinner and things before it gets dark, mostly because it gets colder when it gets darker. So by like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, it's already maybe high 30s, low 40s at night. And by the morning, it's like 22, 25 degrees. It's pretty cold. I try to make my dinner pretty early, around 4:30 is when I've been cooking lately, which is so early and so silly for dinner, but that's just what I have to do since I live in my car and I can't cook in the car. I have to be outside to cook. And so I say all that because that means now my evenings are pretty wide open from like 6 o'clock in the evening to like 10 or 11 o'clock at night when I go to sleep. I don't really have much to do, which means that I get pretty bored. There's not a lot of things to go and do. I end up just sitting here in the car for like 4 hours, just watching movies or TV shows on my phone. I actually tried to just go walk around like a little shopping center they had, but literally all the stores were closed by 6. And there's not a gym here to go to and just like go for a walk or get some exercise or anything. So yeah, it sucks. I end up just sitting here basically and watching movies. There's actually been times when I've gone to a Walmart and just walked around a Walmart for an hour or two just to stretch my legs because there was nothing else to do in that town. Hell, one time I went to an REI and spent 3 hours there just simply walking around because it was raining outside, it was kind of cold, and I had nowhere else to go. And I just didn't want to sit in my car and watch movies. Speaking of being all alone, this is where the mental side of traveling full-time can really start to turn on you a little bit. Since I traveled for a year in this car and now I've been traveling for the past 5 months in this car, the mental aspect has started to change a little bit for me. I'm not around a lot of people. So I find now that when I am in any kind of crowd, like if I do go to the grocery store, or if I do go to a shopping center, or if I go to a restaurant or anything, I don't like large crowds. It's gotten to the point where I prefer much smaller crowds because large crowds make me a little anxious, a little nervous. And I think it's because I've been doing this now for a little while. It started to change my perception of being around big crowds and large groups of people. Just so you know a little bit about my background too, I worked at an Apple store for 16 years. And if you know even just the tiniest thing about an Apple store, they are not quiet places. They are very loud and full of people. So I literally was dealing with roughly 2,000 people a day, literally. So going from that to this, and then sometimes going back into a large crowd, like I've had to go to an Apple store before and get my phone fixed for a broken screen, and I immediately want to leave. It has really changed my perception of being in those kind of environments. And that's different from every individual. Just because you're in the travel lifestyle and you've been doing it for a little while doesn't mean you're gonna get like that, but just know that it may change your perception about being around crowds and things a lot differently than maybe you did before. So I've been doing this for about 1.5 years now, and I gotta tell you, nearly every single day, I honestly have my doubts about it. I honestly have my doubts if I should continue going or not. Your patience level has to be on an all-time high. Things go wrong every single day for me. Things break, businesses are closed, Wi-Fi in public places sucks. I have to finish a job for a client in an hour because the place I'm working at is about to close and I'm not ready to get done working for the day. But in the end, the travel lifestyle is 1,000,000,000% for me. So why do I live this way? Well, it's because of those videos you see online. I am lucky enough that I get to visit all these places that I've always ever heard about. I get to go to places that I've never heard about. For me personally, it's the adventure to experience the unknown, and that's where I've always felt a lot more comfortable. I've traveled outside the country by myself a few times, where I didn't know the language and I didn't know anybody. But for some reason, I was extremely comfortable with that. In fact, I was more comfortable in that environment than when I lived in a city and I took the exact same path every single day and I knew exactly where everything was. For some reason, personally, that just felt more uncomfortable than the unknown ever felt to me. Every day in this lifestyle is an adventure, and some days that's a good thing, and some days that's a bad thing. If there's one thing I can leave you with, it's know this. This lifestyle will absolutely test you. Daily challenges are going to present themselves to you all the time, and ambiguity is something you're going to have to deal with on a daily basis. If you travel full-time in a car, van, RV, however you do it, there's going to be days that are absolutely going to test you, and you're going to probably want to quit. And it's okay to go back to a city. There are people who do this lifestyle for just a few months out of the year. But in the end, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and you're going to have a really great photo collection. When you travel full-time, you're going to be sleeping in parking lots, you're going to be brushing your teeth in parking lots, you're probably going to be making your breakfast, lunch, and dinner in parking lots. I washed my hair in a sink this morning, and I had to find a public bathroom to use. But I promise you that if you get into this lifestyle, you'll find things that work for you. You'll overcome things like the boredom if you travel solo, and you'll find ways to make a daily routine out of everyday life, I promise. Well, I hope I haven't discouraged you too much if you're looking into the travel lifestyle. In the end, it's a very rewarding lifestyle. I get to see amazing places all the time. Thank you for watching and escaping normal life with me.